Hello, everyone, and welcome to Panda Talks Football. So, recently a report came out of the Diario Sport stating that Barcelona have shortlisted four potential candidates for the managerial job once Xavi leaves in the summer. Among them are Thomas Tuchel, Roberto De Zerbi, Julian Nagelsmann, and Hansi Flick. So, I have just decided to see which option is best and worst. I'd be ranking all these options one by one based upon the three criteria: whether they suit Barcelona's style or not. Are they feasible for Barcelona? We'd also take into account their affordability and their potential as Barcelona manager. So without further delay, let's start the video, but please subscribe to the channel so that you do not miss any important update regarding the football. So the worst option in my opinion among these four is none other than the current Bayern Munich manager, who is the Thomas Tuchel. Now, don't get me wrong, as this man already has plenty of experience at the elite level. He has managed the top clubs like Dortmund. In French league, he has managed PSG. And then no one can forget the marvelous season he had at Chelsea. He literally made that team lift the UCL. He took over at the time when they were struggling for the top four and made the Chelsea win the Champions League, which is a quite feat to accomplish with that squad. But in addition to his recent disappointments with the Bayern Munich, that is not the reason I rank him that below among these four suitors. The main reason I would not like him to be our manager is his reason behind being sacked from all those previous clubs. Bayern Munich have announced that they are going to sack him just at the end of the season. But before that, look at his work at Dortmund. He was doing a marvelous job. In PSG, he was doing a marvelous job, and same was the thing at Chelsea. But why did he got sacked? The only reason was he had the clashes with the management, with the board of all three clubs. Well, if it had happened single time, we could have blamed the management. But when it is happening times and again, almost three consecutive times, the issue behind his sacking was not at all the performance. All the teams were performing brilliantly under him, his previous three clubs, but he was sacked because he had issues with the management. Now, let's look at Dortmund. He was having a good season at PSG. He had the issue with the management, and no one can forget that incident with Kylian Mbappe, where he couldn't control the player. And similarly at Chelsea, he just couldn't deal with the new management. Well, in my opinion, that was a really unfair sacking, but that says a lot. Like if you bring a coach like that in this struggling Barcelona, where even the coaches are not even getting the proper wages, they can't get the players they want. That's going to lead to more troubles, more problems than solution for this club. And in Barcelona, you can't expect every manager to control a dressing room. This profile is exactly opposite to Xavi. Xavi was very good in terms of the man handling, in terms of controlling the play. But Thomas Tuchel is exact opposite, and we can see him having the conflicts with players like De Jong, Gundogan, Lewandowski in the dressing room, and that's gonna lead trouble. So, my third pick among these four is going to be the Julian Nagelsmann, the current manager of the German national football team. Yep, you heard it right. Well, let me make it clear at the very start that the reason I've placed him at number third is due to his non-availability for Barcelona, as many sources state that Barcelona are not going to hire him. They have ruled him out as a possible candidate because he will be busy with the Germany national team with the Euro, and Euro competition is likely to end in the middle of July or at the end of it. Until then, Barcelona cannot wait that much for a coach, and they want a coach immediately so that they can prepare the preseason and make the signings accordingly. So that's going to be the reason I've placed him on number third. In other things, he's going to be a dream signing for me. In an ideal world, I would like Barcelona to sign him to replace Xavi. Well, there are countless reasons behind that. First of all, Julian Nagelsmann, although he's just 36 years old, even younger than Cristiano Ronaldo at the moment, but he has a plenty of experience at the top level. Mainly in Germany, Joan Laporta wants a German coach, and he is currently the best option among the German coaches. In my opinion, Nagelsmann is the best option. If we see at his experience, he has served at Hoffenheim a German Bundesliga club from 2013 to 2019. There has been 6 years for him coaching at Hoffenheim. Then he went to the RB Leipzig. He spent 2 seasons over there and he did a really marvelous job over there. Just looking at the stats of Julian Lagerman in his first season at RB Leipzig, it's quite impressive for a manager to score 81 goals in 34 matches with a team like RB Leipzig. It's not that big of a club. That makes his tally to the 2.4 goal per game, and that too in his first season as a manager. His RB Leipzig finished at number 3 in his first season and then even moved on to second spot in his next season, the 2020 to 21 season. And then seeing his excellence in the German football, Bayern Munich signed him, but shockingly sacked him just because they wanted to sign the Thomas Tuchel. They sacked him because they thought that they won't be winning the treble with him. But now just look at them. Most likely they are going to end the season trophyless. That's how karma hits you. Well, anyways, while he inherited a strong team from Hansi Flick, even Bayern Munich scored 97 goals in his tenure, and there was a certain impressive stats from his time over there in his debut season in Bayern Munich. Just look at the work he has done. There were 4.5 big chances per game in his tenure, a goal tally of 2.9 per game. That is quite impressive for a coach. And yes, they were literally unbeaten in the Champions League at the moment they sacked him. He was doing a really, really good job, even in his second season. He was dominant. And in my opinion, he's very good option. If we had to talk about his style of play, what he deploys a system of minimum width, which allows the defenders to efficiently control and prevent the counter attacks. And even in terms of the attacks, that facilitates the wingers and the striker to be in the good position while receiving the ball. He manifests the idea of the minimum width rather than spreading the wingers out wide, and that's his genius philosophy of football. Then comes his another tactic, which is the overloading the center, and which is what is going to help Barcelona a lot, playing through the mid rather than through the flanks. This is the areas where our team are stronger. We are stronger in the midfield, but we are not that much good from the flanks. And having a manager like him who utilizes the center way more than the flanks and tries to build his attack around that's going to help us a lot. And it is his system which is going to help us more. Building from the deep and then progressing forward with the proper structure. That is what Barcelona needs, and he's the ideal candidate in my opinion. But sadly, I don't think there are chances for Barcelona to sign him at the moment. So, the second choice on the list is Hansi Flick. Now, although I know that he deserves the recognition for the 2019 to 20 season, not only that 8-2 against Barcelona, but his team actually won the sextuple that season, a treble winning manager for Bayern Munich. Even in the 2020 to 21 season, he built a great team and still played the great football, dominated Bundesliga like no other, as well as he was even about to he would have won the UCL again that year, only if that were not for the injury of Lewandowski in that quarterfinal leg against PSG. Having said that, Hansi Flick has a really, really strange career. He spent most of his time as an assistant manager. While talking about his management at the elite level, he spent his time at Bayern Munich, and in that 2019 to 20 treble winning season, he's the coach with the most goals per game ratio in Bundesliga history, which is 3.2. Although the stats show otherwise because he took over the team in the middle of the season. Not in the middle precisely, but some games had passed, I feel like. He built a monster team out of them. But you can also not deny his failure at the international level. He went to Germany national team, applied the same tactics of football, and failed miserably. He's the second worst manager in German football history with the lowest win rate. Now, I'm not going to be skeptical about a manager just due to his downfall at international level. There are many things which go beyond just manager at international stage, but we cannot deny the kind of football he actually plays. Talking about his system, he relies upon a high line of the defense and utilizing a high intensity to win the ball with a high pressing on the team, which is a positive aspect. And I feel like he's gonna improve the intensity of this Barcelona squad to a lot of extent. they're actually going to improve, and you're not going to see the instances as we watched against the Napoli in the first leg recently, where our players just forgot how to run just after the 70th minute. But there's also a catch. Like in this system, there is a high risk of counter attack. Unlike Nagelsmann, he has just deployed a high line without any width to cover for the counter attacks, and that has led to many of the turnovers in him squad. And the other thing is, he mainly relies upon the vertical passing, the long passing to the attackers, and he actually needs the monsters in transition to actually play his brand of football, which I think is not available at Barcelona. We do not have the monsters in transition. Even in his system, the midfield utility is reduced drastically. As what his system is about, you just win the ball and pass it to the free man and just play a long ball into the attacker. But even though that system worked very brilliantly at Bayern, where the players like Sane, Gnabry, Coman, Lewandowski, they were in their prime, you can't say about this Barcelona squad, which is already performing below average. Even though his freedom might improve the game of certain players in our squad like Frankie de Jong, Pedri, and Gavi, you still cannot deny that his philosophy is not parallel but rather perpendicular to the style of Barcelona. We may like to change the brand of football, but you cannot do that without the signings. And I don't think that he is gonna work wonders with the La Masia kids, which is why I placed him on second spot. Well, anyways, in football, things can change on a day-to-day basis. He might adapt to the situation at Barcelona, although he's the number one candidate to replace Xavi according to the Fabrizio Romano. But let's see if he joins us. He'd be a good manager, but not the ideal replacement, in my opinion. And finally, let's talk about my number one pick to replace Xavi. Now, even though his release clause is set at 10 million according to various sources, that makes his affordability a bit harder for Barcelona due to their struggling finances. But I still think that Barcelona should make a move out of him, as he's the coach who has received the praise from the greatest manager in the world, obviously Pep Guardiola, not one time but many times. Even he has, according to many sources, suggested the Man City board to replace him with a De Zerbi in the future. That signals a lot regarding his brand of football. De Zerbi is actually an exact opposite of Hansi Flick. With Hansi Flick, you have to rely upon the individual brilliance of the players and then intensity, while De Zerbi has a system, a real tactical manager with brilliant tactics. Now, many people might question that struggling form of Brighton may lead to Barcelona not appointing him. With that, I'd say that it's not entirely a fault of the coach. Like, look at the quality in the Brighton squad. Over there, they do not have defenders like Barcelona have. They don't have the midfield like us. Implementing the system is way harder over there, but he has still tried to stick to that system. Even earned a Europa League spot for a struggling Brighton for the first time in history last season. One thing I'd like to say about DZB system is that you need the players to play their brand of football many times in order to master your tactics at the elite level. But in Brighton, that's not the case. They are the team which constantly sell their players again and again. The reason they are struggling, I feel like, is that they just sold Moises Casado and Mac Allister just in this window and did not replace the players with the eventually that much of a quality players. This is the reason I feel like he has struggled in form this season. It's not the fault of his system in my opinion, but rather the individual mistakes that even if you see the highlights of Brighton, many of the goals are rather the individual mistakes of the player, not of the system. He's not being exposed on the counter attack many times as Xavi is. So I feel like he's gonna take us to a next level. With Hansi Flick might be a short-term solution, but this guy, De Zerbi, if his system works over here, that might take Barcelona to new heights. Well, even though he isn't having that much experience at a top club, the media pressure at Barcelona might suck the soul out of him. But anyways, there's no ideal candidate in my opinion, as we say. But he will be the best option for us, and he'd be able to utilize even the La Masia kids at a very high level. He'd be able to play his brand of football with the players who are just specialists in passing. His system is gonna work in my opinion. That's all regarding my understanding of football. I hope you liked the video and comment down below which coach would you like FC Barcelona to replace Xavi in the summer. Well, finally, do subscribe to the channel and Visca Barca.